Hey everyone, welcome back to Coffee Break Live, where I want to read a snippet of my new book that was released in December called Saving Nevada. I used to call it Nevada, but I was corrected by a person who actually lived there, and they said it's not pronounced Nevada, it's pronounced Nevada. So, just that little tidbit of information for you today. I'm going to read the back blurb. One woman, one wild horse, and 100 days to save each other. Fans of Black Beauty will love this poignant story. Haley Wilson's heart is as big as her dreams. Driven by a childhood passion, she signs up for the Mustang Makeover, a highly competitive equestrian contest. But there is a twist. Haley must train Nevada from wild to mild in 100 days. But she quickly learns that training a wild beast is not as easy as she thought. Nevada is too big, too bold, too dangerous. Despite challenges and financial limitations, Haley falls in love with the horse. She must find a way to earn the prize money to win her at the auction. But they are far behind the other competitors with almost no chance of success. Saving Nevada is a novel based on a true story that will tug at your heartstrings and leave you cheering for the underdog. Join Haley on this captivating journey where a wild Mustang becomes not only her toughest challenge, but also the catalyst for exploring love, self discovery, and extraordinary strength found in the unlikeliest of friendships. Saving Nevada is a story of perseverance, unwavering faith, and the powerful bond between a woman and the horse who captures her heart. This is a beautiful story that will stay with you long after you turn the last page. That was written by Jennifer Marshall Blakely, who is the author of Joey, Project Solomon, Proverbs devotional series, and Finding Grace. Thank you, Jennifer. I'm going to read to you a little bit. Now we need to find your horse, Haley. What's your number? I glanced down as if I hadn't memorized it already. Tag 6642. She's from Triple B, Nevada. We separated and each of us strolled in our separate directions to search for her. The horses scrambled in mass chaos. The more dominant mares positioned themselves in the center of the moving frenzy for protection from intruders, humans. The instinct made it difficult to see their numbers. Lisa waved her hands at me. There, the big bay in the middle. The word big tipped me off. Surrounded by trotting horses, a big bone mare hovered in size above the rest. She shoved horses away to stay centered in the group and pinned her ears when one didn't move away fast enough. Please tell me it isn't true. Chris double-checked the number I almost dropped from my hand. She's right. That's your Mustang, Haley. Unshed tears clogged my throat. I wanted a small, passive Mustang, not the dominant leader of the herd. Chris pulled out his cell phone and began videoing the horse while I stood frozen in place. Katie bounded up next to me. You drew the biggest, prettiest one here. Lucky you. Lucky me? I would have gladly traded with anyone willing. Anxiety held its ugly grip on me, and I stared at the horse, unable to speak. The original excitement I'd experienced this morning plummeted into a pool of fear. The mare, I couldn't bring herself to call her mine yet, pinned her ears and bared her teeth at a horse's rump in front of her. She guided the herd back our way and stopped to study us. Our gazes met, and prickled chills traveled in slow, painful motion down my body and formed like icicles in my toes. She raised her head high, ears perked at me, and I looked straight into the eyes of a beast. A dangerous lion, not a tiger. No, this horse ruled. The way she held herself, chest puffed out, energy bold, convinced me I was a substandard trainer in an overwhelming situation. Her black, tangled mane hung in knots on both sides, of her neck embedded with clumps of dirt. But despite my fear, I could see she was beautiful, wild. Thick mud, thick mud covered her black and dirty white legs. An unreadable tattoo displayed prominently on the shaved portion of the left side of her neck. Her face, although stern-looking and beautifully chiseled, held a dingy white star square in the middle of her forehead. Our gazes remained locked for a few alarming seconds, maybe minutes, maybe hours. Arctic goosebumps froze me in place, and I fought tears. How was I supposed to train her in 100 days or even in 1,000 days? I battled the urge to return home without the horse. The animal tossed her head with unmasked defiance, and I shrunk in my coat. Never in all my years of riding horses had I ever encountered a steed like this. That calculated look in her eyes. I didn't like what I saw. She was straight off the Nevada range, a desert horse, not a domesticated pet. Lisa rejoined us. She's spirited, all right. I nodded, words failing me. I could stop this right now. Walk away, quit. Except I wasn't a quitter. My mom had always labeled me as stubborn. And usually I preferred the word determined. But I had to admit, this dream of mine had entered the danger zone. I fought off rising panic. I had promised myself and Chris that I wouldn't back down. And I had made a commitment to help this horse no matter what. The Mustang hadn't asked for this situation. If I didn't step up to the plate and bring her home with us, she'd sadly return to the holding pen, and I'd fail in the eyes of my family. People held opinions about adopting Mustangs because of the reputation as being difficult to train. I had no choice but to prove them wrong. My dream of quitting the dissatisfying nursing job would otherwise never happen. Quitting the makeover wasn't an option. The horse deserved better. I could do this. I mean, others trained untouched Mustangs in 100 days. Why not me? It wasn't as though she had any bad habits caused by mishandling of unskilled people who meant well, but who caused more harm than good. It wasn't as though she had any bad habits caused by the mishandling of unskilled people who meant well, but caused more harm than good. Besides, I had learned skills during a Mustang clinic I had taken in Arizona. The trainer had shown us attendees how to work through the tedious process of earning the horse's trust each step of the way. Chris stuck his phone into his pocket and sidled up to me. She's a beaut. There will be plenty of bids on her at the auction. Everyone wants a big Mustang. Any man can easily ride, if I was successful enough to make it to the auction. I nodded, but still hadn't spoken. My words clogged in my throat like a stopped-up pipe. The loudspeaker sounded overhead. A man's voice announced the first group to pull up their trailers and to prepare to back them to the chute at the mouth of the Mustang tent. Thank goodness we were part of the second group. This was getting real. I stood by and watched in silence. Despite continued commotion in the pen, the staff guided selected horses into the chute without issue, affixing a halter on each horse and sending them into awaiting trailers. Lisa and Katie's horses loaded into their stock trailer with ease. No kicking, no mishaps. We had planned to follow each other most of the way back home, but it didn't make sense to keep their horses waiting for an undetermined amount of time until it was my turn. I wished them safe travels and extended a hug to them both. Stay in touch, Haley. Let us know your progress, Katie said before climbing into her truck. You too. We hugged once more before she shut the door. I watched them drive away, a void filling me. Maybe it was the cold, wet day, but when I turned my attention to my Mustang draw, my limbs grew numb. Her bare teeth almost took a chunk out of a smaller horse's rump before the horse scurried out of the way. I need to drive Old Red near the gate. It's time. Chris watched me as if to gauge if it were safe to leave me behind, not that he had much choice. Okay, but hurry back, I wanted to say. I was anything but okay. Haley, have faith in the process, he said, pausing to take in my feelings. I nodded, but my eyes filled with tears. He slowed down to give me a long hug, rubbing my back with his hand, his embrace making me feel supported and loved. When he left my side, I turned toward the Mustang with anxiety dancing through my body. The horse needed a name, but the trend was to wait until the trainer, meaning me, Haley Wilson, removed the rope with a metal tag hanging from around the animal's neck. I chewed my lip, but the act did nothing to expend nervous energy. So I shifted my gaze to watch the loading process. Chris parked our trailer near the tent, and two staff members, one of which was the stocky man who had requested the halter, walked toward Old Red. Thinking Chris might need help, I plodded toward them. They appeared to be having an intense discussion. When I reached them, I overheard the stocky man say, "The divider needs to be removed." He diverted his attention to the latch Chris had repaired, and in a low tone said something to another staff member. He turned back and said to Chris, "We're concerned about the latch. How far do you have to travel?" "To Scotland Neck, North Carolina, about 597 miles." Chris remained calm, but I knew from the way he stood with rigidity in his back, his shoulders shrugged tight, that his composure was an act. While the staff discussed the latch in further detail, Chris and I finagled the divider out of the trailer and set it inside the bed of the truck. The latch issue remained a sticking point. Chris rejoined them, but I stayed near the truck. The three of them fiddled with the clasp and talked between themselves. We had come so far and invested so much time and money. What a shame if they sent us away without a Mustang. Then again, I contemplated leaving the horse behind. Maybe this was fate or divine intervention protecting me. Chris glanced up at me and nodded. All was good. I worked my way back to the pen for a safe place to watch the loading process while Chris stayed with the trailer. Wanting to log my journey, I pulled out my cell phone to capture the moment on video. The staff separated the mare along with three other horses. She trotted around, running into them, and then kicked out at the metal planked fencing. The sharp echo vibrated inside my ears and ricocheted through my body like a bullet bouncing off a steel wall. I gasped to catch my breath. Unable to watch anymore, I shut off my phone and turned the other way. Until now, the other horses seemed easy to load. But when the moment arrived for tag number 6642, the easy luck changed for the handlers. Curiosity got me, though, and I turned back to watch. A staff member held a flag stick in his hand and shooed her into the chute. She trotted into the chute halfway, then spun on her haunches and tried to run back into the pen. A man stopped by waving a flag at her. She slid to a halt, turned on her haunches again, and ran deeper into the narrow portion of the chute. With no way to turn around or run out, they tried to slip the halter on her. She kicked at the metal fence, the echo once again ringing through the air. I stood still, barely able to breathe. Two men hurried to slip on the halter and fasten it before she belted out another kick. The stocky man swished the flag stick at her, causing her to thunder into Old Red, but she blasted a kick at the doorway of the trailer as she entered. They hurried to close the door behind her and latch it before she changed her mind. One of the younger men shook his head, and his words would likely haunt me for the next 100 days. "Good luck, she's a real bruiser." I was in over my head, and the bold Mustang would, in fact, test my skill set and confidence to the fullest. I couldn't fight off the intimidation building inside me. When I climbed inside the truck and pulled the door shut, I started to cry. Here I was, taking a wild animal into my care, to our home. The horse's safety was in my hands, and my future was in hers. Ooh, it makes me choke up. All right, I hope you enjoyed it. This book is on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, anywhere that you can buy a book, and you can certainly ask for your bookstore to order it. It's on Ingram, which is the wholesaler that they order it from. So anyway, this is one of the stories that I wrote that caused me the most emotion. I can barely read it to you without choking up. And when describing it to you, I cry every time. There's a video out there. So after you read the book, if you want to reach out to me at lorihayesbooks@gmail.com, I will send you the link. I cannot to this day watch that without crying. It's such an emotional, heartwarming story. It just gets me every time. I would say this is the most emotional story I've ever written. Whew. I was informed about this story and knew that it was special and then I needed to write this. I was in the middle of a 2-book contract with my publisher, but I knew that I had to go to Kentucky to watch this competition. I knew that I had to follow this horse's journey as well as another horse I was thinking about writing about before I met this one. And I had to finish my 2-book contract with my publisher first. I was working on this in between every moment that I could, but it's just one of these stories of my heart that really research and all took me 3 years to write. Usually takes me 1 year to write a book. It may not be very thick, but boy, does it pack a powerful punch. I dare you to read it, and I want to know if it evokes emotion and tears in you. Please let me know. And if you've read it, don't give anything away, but drop below the emotions that it touched in you. You don't have to be a horse lover to enjoy this. It's like reading The Black Stallion or Black Beauty. It's just one of those stories that if you know nothing about horses, I try really hard to walk you through that and keep everything in general terms so that you can follow along. But I dare you, if you want an emotional story, here you go. And it takes place in North Carolina. Thank you all, and I will see you next Friday.